Right now on the National Weather Desk, snow pummels the Northeast as a wild week of weather finally comes to a close.
Earlier this morning, we had some pretty low visibility.
Hear from the hero who helped save a skier trapped in an avalanche.
Some minutes felt like hours and some hours felt like minutes.
A tasty way to help better understand different types of precipitation.
Got some donuts to explain exactly what's falling from the sky.
Overcoming the challenges people with disabilities have in snow and ice.
Impacting our ability to push the button to cross the street.
Protecting your pet in winter weather.
We can see a lot of irritation on the paw pads.
And the story behind an iconic photo from North Dakota's blizzard of 1966.
From our nation's capital, this is the National Weather Desk.
Good morning and welcome to the National Weather Desk. I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie. The massive storm that unleashed tornadoes in the south and a blizzard in the plains is now bringing snow to the Northeast. The National Weather Service posted winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories from Pennsylvania to Maine. By the time the storm moves out, up to 18 inches may have fallen across parts of the region. We have team coverage of the storm this morning, starting with Caitlin McCarthy near Syracuse, New York.
I'm currently in the Sedgwick neighborhood right now, and the snow's pretty consistent. It's heavy, wet snow. It's going to make it a little tough to shovel out your car this morning if you're traveling to school or work. But there's been a handful of delays and closures because if you look behind me, there's a lot of snow in the road right now. It doesn't look like there's been a lot of plows that have gone through this neighborhood and throughout other parts of Syracuse. So if you are driving and you do have to go to work, I would advise being cautious and careful to make sure you get there safely. Reporting in Syracuse, I'm Caitlin McCarthy.
Now, fortunately for those who are getting out the door and getting onto their morning commute today, the roads have cleared up quite a bit, and the visibility, that's probably the biggest thing that's changed over the last course of the last few hours. Much clearer visibility than we saw even at 6 and 5 o'clock this morning. It was pretty low. The roads, we had some slushy, icy, snowy nicks, so the road crews have been out here. We've seen them come through several times so far, cleaning up the roads. The other thing is it's pretty wet snow, so if you are gonna have a snow day, or you're working from home, it's a good day to go have a snowball fight or build a snowman. But just remember, it's pretty wet snow. Even though the temperature's not too bad out, you want to make sure you have a good pair of gloves or some nice boots on so you don't get too cold.
The snow will continue for much of the day and tonight, but should clear up for most places this weekend. The next big weather maker comes in late next week when Arctic air moves into the central and eastern U.S. Low temperatures in many places will drop below zero, just in time for Christmas. All right, the severe weather threat in the south is finally over, but not before an EF1 tornado touched down in St. Petersburg, Florida yesterday. The most severe damage was to a preschool after a tree fell on it. Thankfully, nobody was inside at the time. Several homes in the city were also damaged. And in South Georgia, this damage was left behind after a suspected tornado spun through the area. It uprooted a pecan tree and ripped a roof off a house and scattered some trees across the roadway. But a cotton gin in the city of Doe Run bore the brunt of the storm. Reporter Shade Ray explains what happens.
Equipment on the right side of the building was fine, but the plant and equipment on the left side was destroyed. Two of his trucks that were recently fixed are now damaged again by the storm. Doe Run Police Chief Frank Pierce says that this is the only damage reported in city limits. Doe Run City Manager Alyssa Blakely says they're lucky that the weather warning system went off in enough time to warn the residents.
The National Weather Service will be sending a crew to assess the damage in the area. Sadly, 3 people died in the storms in Louisiana. 21 tornadoes touched down over a period of 24 hours, devastating communities. The outbreak comes on the heels of tornadoes that struck the state back in March, not to mention Hurricane Ida last year. Survivors describe riding out the storm in basements and closets, and when they were finally able to emerge, many saw their neighborhoods blown away. Now let's move to the northern plains where folks are digging out after a massive snowfall. The sounds of snow blowers could be heard across the region, including here in Minneapolis. Neighbors helped each other dig out driveways and sidewalks. Plows cleared driveways as well. Calls for broken equipment also increased. Snow in parts of Minnesota is expected to continue through tonight. Meanwhile, in Wisconsin, folks are digging themselves out from 9 inches of snow. Even in a place that is used to winter, digging out is still a chore.
It's hard stuff to push, very heavy. You know, it don't move, and then there's slush underneath, you know, so it don't move. The first snow is always the worst, so once we get this one out of the way, then we get lighter stuff, so.
The blizzard conditions also created very big waves on Lake Superior. According to the National Weather Service, east gales up to 45 knots created 21-foot waves. With diminished winds today, the waves should be just 1 to 3 feet. Our team of meteorologists are always looking for new and creative ways to help you better understand the weather. When freezing precipitation fell across Maryland yesterday, meteorologist Amy Aronson decided to use donuts in her lesson plan.
So first, this donut covered in coconut, that represents snow. In order to get snow, all precipitation starts as ice and snow up in the clouds. And what happens is it falls through a layer that's below freezing and stays snow as it reaches the surface. Not seeing that here this morning. This sprinkled donut, that would be sleet. That's the pellets, the stuff you can hear when it falls. In that situation, it falls through a layer in the atmosphere that's above freezing. It melts, but then a layer close to the surface that's back below freezing, and it has time to refreeze and reaches us as the pellets. But what I want to focus in on is this big croissant. It's glazed. You can kind of see it. See how it's shiny? That's what we're seeing out here this morning. In the case of freezing rain, like on this glazed croissant, it falls as below freezing precipitation to start, but then it falls to a big chunk in the atmosphere that's above freezing, so it melts. And as reaching the ground, once it reaches the ground, it just refreezes because the temperature is hovering right near freezing. And you can see that here on the sidewalk this morning. See how it's kind of shiny and kind of like that glazed croissant? It's slippery, so you got to shuffle as you step out the door. Maybe you're just stepping out to take the dog out this morning. You want to shuffle your feet if your sidewalk isn't salted to make sure you don't slip. So kind of all these pastries here explain what we could see falling from the sky and what we are seeing here this morning.
All right, as North Dakota digs out from this week's blizzard, many are thinking back to the blizzard of 1966, long considered one of the worst in state history. Two men responsible for taking a now iconic photo from that storm recently spoke with reporter Krista Kidrowski.
There's a very good chance this photo will be displayed if you Google North Dakota winters. This iconic picture was taken by Ernie Phelan, who worked for the North Dakota Department of Transportation during the blizzard of '66, and shows coworker Bill Cook standing on a snowdrift next to a telegraph pole. Bill and Ernie were out taking photos like this of the winter storm's impact on North Dakota highways when they happened to drive by an enormous snowdrift. The aftermath of the blizzard of 1966 left those who lived through it with many other incredible photos. Strong winds created snowdrifts so tall and deep, even trains were stopped in their tracks.
There was a train stuck in there, and we've got pictures. We took pictures of that, too. The train came along, and I'm just assuming they didn't think it was that deep. They drove into that thing thinking they're going to go through it, but they didn't.
Both men say they had no idea they'd be making history when they snapped the classic photo.
Not at all, not at all. When I took the picture, I didn't know if it'd ever be used or shown, you know.
And there was no thought given about that was a unique picture or anything, but we made a picture for ourselves, and we forgot about it, you know.
A new report suggests whales may be able to help the world fight climate change. Here's the connection. Fighting climate change means taking carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, a process known as carbon sequestration. Trees already do that. Apparently, so do whales. They store large amounts of carbon in their bodies. Now, the author of the new paper suggests if we improve whale recovery efforts, we may also increase carbon sequestration.